heard of a serial entrepreneur?
Well, I've heard of a serial killer.
Well, our next speaker is this, a serial entrepreneur, not a killer, and more. He is the CEO and founder of a mobility startup, Metro Ride. He chose to become an entrepreneur after a successful stint of leadership positions in the corporate sector. This man with an infectious smile and a never say die attitude is a cricket buff, an aspiring stand-up comedian, and an amateur Scrabble player. He's been a Toastmaster for almost 6 years and has played various leadership roles. He was the immediate Division E director and currently serving as a Chief Judge for District 121 to explain to us all the nuances to make that perfect judge. May we have distinguished Toastmaster Girish Nagpal on stage.
Thank you, Minnie, for that wonderful introduction. Judges Training Program. Judges Training Program. Do you really need training for being a judge? We, the Homo sapiens, were born as judgmental people. Is it wrong if I say the moment I come on stage, or the moment you see somebody, you're already judging based on grooming, based on attire, based on the hairstyle, based on the color of their skin, based on how they smile? Every single time we are already judging somebody. But why do we need training for that? Because judgmental and being judging, there is a very clear distinction between being judgmental and being a fair judge. That's what we're going to learn today. Let me just pull up my presentation. Sure. So let's look at what we would be learning today to enable you to be a better contest judge. So everything we do today is all about the contest, the Toastmasters official contest, to maintain a uniform and a high standard of judging across different contests, train you on duties of role players for an online contest, which my fellow partner already has done. So somebody is already judging, oh, the earlier presenter was more charming, but this guy has a beard, so maybe he's high on intellect. So I would keep reminding you of not to go with your thought of being the judgmental one, because the moment you see somebody, you're already having thoughts. But there is a process, there is a protocol which you will be using as a judge to rate the ballots which you get. So introduction of various contest tools, how you do it, especially now every contest being an online one, we would be helping you with that. And of course, in the whole process, enable you to run an unbiased and a smooth contest. Official contest of District 121, as you've heard already, we are having two contests this time. First is the international speech contest, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech. And secondly, we'll be having the tall tales contest. For the very first time in our district and in this part of the world, 3 to 5 minutes speech is a tall tale contest, which is an exaggerated humor-packed tales. And of course, we'll be doing a deep dive into it going forward. Now let's see what is a judge, because I'm sure you've been doing evaluation at your club level, right? You know how to dissect a speech, but let's have a very clear distinction. A judge is not an evaluator. Your simple rule or your single most important rule or role in a contest is to pick the best speaker of the day. You pick the right winner, whether you're a judge at the club level, area level, division level, or the district level. Your only aim of that session is to pick the right person of that day. You might like Virat Kohli, but you can't pick him man of the match, even if he got maybe out on a duck, right? So it's not about who you are or what the speaker is. It's about who was the best speaker of that day, and whatever you decide will be final. So you're the final authority. So you got to take that honor with, of course, a lot of responsibility. So you have a lot of obligations to, first and foremost, the contestants. Now the contestant, I'm sure you've been a contestant or you are a new Toastmaster. Contestants give their heart and soul to the preparation. I know of people who prepare their speeches hundreds of times, and it's all about you marking them on the ballot for their performance on that given day. Just because you were busy on a phone call while the speaker was speaking, it can actually derail his whole preparation. So you have a huge obligation towards contestants, and of course towards Toastmasters International in general. You're a judge representing the values of Toastmasters International, so you got to value that and be obligated to that. So just remember, whenever you're signing that code of ethics, you're signing up as a judge, give your 100%, because Toastmasters International is giving you that responsibility to do a fair job. And definitely the audience, how many times have we heard the audience expected a different result, and of course the results were way different than what ultimately everybody expected, right? So you are responsible for the audience, because audience come to a contest to see a fair show, to see a fair session. So that your responsibility definitely is towards the audience as well. And lastly, but definitely not the least, to yourself or to the judges themselves. Because when you judge somebody, it is you giving your vote to a person based on the performance. Somewhere in deep in your heart, you will know if you did a fair job or not. And that's the most important obligation you have. Now, who is a good judge? Is this objective or is this a very subjective thing? So there are, of course, quite a few elements which we could look at based on accuracy, based on fairness, based on how trustworthy you are or how knowledgeable you are, and how you are good at listening. Let's get into each of these points specifically. So a good judge is always accurate. So he's not guessing, but he's very clear that I am making the correct decision because I have these parameters, and this is how I am marking somebody up or down. You have a ballot to help you. So every single time when you're listening to a speech, you're making your notes, and you're very accurate. You're not just making any guess, but you're precisely giving the points of the performance of that day. So that is how you're being accurate. So it's not just about taking a guess, but accurately giving that single mark which a contestant deserves. Let's look at second point, which is being fair. Being fair, I think, is a very highly underrated thing, because everybody thinks I am fair, but it's all within your conscious. Because when you see a person who you already know in a contest, just to the truest form of you, you have to just keep that aside. If I have known him as a speaker, as a friend, or maybe he comes from the same maybe organization which I work for, or maybe I have a connection with him or outside of Toastmasters in general, all those biases have to be parked on one side and just see the speech, what happens on that very day. So all those things have to be absolutely made impartial, because ultimately the Toastmasters International, the contest chair and the chief judge has trusted you with a huge responsibility. There would be times when you connect to a speaker based on the personal preference, because if you like something and the speaker is also talking about the same thing, yes, you'll have a better connection. Or if you don't like anything specific and the speaker speaks about it, so you got to be very unbiased and fair there too. Don't just because it is matching with your own preferences, do not mark anybody higher. The most important point again coming up is the trust. Trust is something which, of course, you got to earn, and here we are showing you upfront. So the contestants are counting on you, the contest officials are counting on you, and more so, the Toastmasters International as a brand has given you that power to choose the perfect person of that day. So you got to value that trust and give your best. And of course, knowledge. Knowledge is something which is a continuous process. You can never say that I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years, so I need not attend a training. I have so many good examples, right? Here we see CK Balal sir, we see TK Ramesh sir attending all these workshops, even in spite of having so much of knowledge. They are like, he's been a chief judge himself. Nirmala ma'am herself has been the chief judge, but she's attended all those sessions. That shows that people, though they are knowledgeable, the value, one of the values they respect is the continuous learning, because the contest rules keep changing, the formats keep changing. Now we are online, so there are a lot of new things happening. So how do you get familiar with those changes? How do you ensure that every single time you step up as a judge, you are reading that contest rule book again, you're reading that ballot once again? Because no matter what, how well you know it, unless and until you refresh your knowledge, it will have an impact. It will have a gap if you do not update yourself. So that's what we expect you to be as a judge, to be knowledgeable. In spite, even if you are a new Toastmaster, you definitely can be knowledgeable, because there is so much of resource available. There are so many trainings we've been doing, and everything which we share is basically available in the public domain. So if you want to be, if you're curious enough, definitely you can add on to your knowledge resource. And last but definitely not the least, how well you listen. How actively can you listen? Now, especially this becomes so very important in the online format, because nobody's seeing you most of the times. Your videos are off. So if you're taking a phone call, or if you're having a breakfast, if you're playing with your kids, or if you're watching TV, nobody can see you. The whole onus is on you only, right? So avoid multitasking. I think that is the biggest distraction when you're being a judge. I would humbly request that please get into a room where you have no disturbance at all. I remember, and this all of course comes from different examples when we listen to our leaders. Last session, if you've attended the SAW workshop, we had Toastmaster Salim, or distinguished Toastmaster Salim, who told us that I locked myself in the room and told my family for next 2.5 hours, nobody is knocking at this door, nobody is coming to this room, because I wanted an undivided attention. And that's what I think we expect from each single judge, to have that undivided attention for those 2.5 hours of the contest. Because trust me, if you're not 100% focused, if you're trying to do multiple things, definitely you will derail a contestant's preparation just because you are not attentive enough. So that is one of the most important aspects of being a fair or a quality judge, that you have to be a good listener. Now, judges code of ethics, I'm sure people who've been judges before have seen this document, signed this document tons of times, but I'm not sure how many times you've actually read it. I, as chief judge, have followed this process most of the times, that I read this code of ethics, because it gives me goosebumps when I read. This is basically like an oath when you're taking on responsibility. If you read this, this is so empowering. The whole code of ethics of a judge gives you, or basically gives you that responsibility, or taps again before getting into a contest, that okay, I am on to something really responsible. So each single point, if you read, so if you're a chief judge, I would request, maybe as an oath, as in you can read and you can request all the judges during your briefing time to be very attentive and take this as an oath. So for that, I will want to read at least the first point, and you will see the impact, because when you do that, the judges will actually get to know, okay, this is something serious, this is something really valuable I'm going to do. So more often than not, you will feel that there is a very there's a change of stand within the judges itself when you do this. So just for example, if you're a chief judge, I would request you to read it for the judges, and you maybe can request all the judges to stand in an oath position. So I will demonstrate the utmost objectivity. I will consciously avoid bias of any kind in selecting first, second, and third place contestants. I will not consider any contestant's club, area, division, or district affiliation, nor will I consider any contestant's age, race, creed, national origin, disability, profession, or political beliefs. I will not time the speeches and will not consider the possibility of undertime or overtime when judging a contestant's speech. So these are just 2 points I've read. There are 5 like this. And of course, you got to sign this as a protocol. But when you read these sentences once again before the contest, it gives you that responsibility, or that wake up alarm, that yes, you are onto something really responsible. So as a chief judge, this is one practice I would request people to follow. Now let's look at, I said, everybody is by default, as we as Homo sapiens become judgmental. So that is basically a barrier to objectivity. And there are so many barriers a judge has to cross when he's going to sign that ballot sheet or submit his result. So what are these things which will stop you from becoming an objective judge? Let's jump and see what all we have in store. So the speaker's position. Now this is one practice we follow as a Toastmasters protocol, that the draw of speakers is basically just drawn randomly, right? So you could be the first speaker, you could be the last speaker, but as a judge, you always hear that recency or the primacy effect. The first and the last have an advantage, or actually most of the times you will hear that first person has a disadvantage. So of course, there are a lot of things going around, but I would say as a judge, if you take that very seriously and you refresh yourself after every single speech and hear every speech as if this was the first speech you're hearing without any bias, definitely those primacy and recency effects will be absolutely removed. So just ensure that you do not care about who the first speaker is or what the speaker's position in lot is. Just focus on what he's delivered, and that's how you basically give your voting or give your marks for that ballot. And one good practice is not to go back to somebody you've already rated or ranked. So if you've given marks to a contestant number 1, 2, 3, and you're on 4, it's a good practice not to go to again the first and second, because if you basically are judging in that moment with the same benchmarks, you will be a much better and a fair judge. Let's look at barrier number 2, which is the underdogs. Now, as a habit, I'm sure everybody wants always to cheer for the underdogs. If it's a Mumbai versus Rajasthan games, more often than not, you will see people cheering for Rajasthan Royals because they are the underdogs, or the stronger team always has a better chance. So you will want to give that undue advantage to the underdog. But no, in a contest, please keep that out. If you see any handicap or based on it could be any kind of handicap, or if you see I've seen this in Toastmasters very often. If there is a guy who stammers a bit, so people tend to give a little uh, advantage or a handicap to that person because he's delivering a speech in spite of that handicap. No, you as a judge are not supposed to do that, because your only aim is to find the best irrespective of the condition they are going through. So please ensure that you do not give any undue advantage to the underdogs. Third barrier, which comes very often, is the halo effect, and it's always easier said than done. That do not see the speaker, see the speech, but more often than not, you will see that any favorable trait which you see, a person comes really well dressed up, a very sound voice, and a huge personality, you tend to feel, okay, he is a better speaker. Maybe he has a cool hairstyle, or he has a very weird sense of dressing. He's humorous. So all these halo effects, one thing leading to another, or one aspect giving you a bias on another, is something which we got to really take care of. And once you are present to the fact that, okay, I am seeing this as a good looking person, maybe I am thinking that he's a good looking person, or he looks like very confident in body language, that's how his speech will also be confident and strong. So the moment you are present to that fact, more often than not, you will be able to remove this halo effect. And similar thing is a reverse halo effect. So something which you think as a not a great trait or a negative trait, you will relate that to the speaker's main performance. Maybe he's not that good with language or accent or grammar. Maybe then his message also would not be very strong. So these are the things you got to avoid, because if there is a non-favorable trait, does not really mean that he will not be able to give a great performance. So you just mark him. So if there are marks for grammar, yes, there are marks for grammar and language in the ballot. Just focus on that part for that very trait rather than generalizing it throughout the ballot. Next is second time around. We've all been Toastmasters for so many years, and there are people you would see every single area, division, club contest coming time and again. So what? That shows their perseverance, right? Not to say that they're coming again, so you have to mark them high or low. It's just see them as if you were listening them for the first time. So in spite of that guy has gone to an international contest already, or because every time you start a new contest, your journey begins afresh. So do not see him as a second timer just because you've seen him 100 times on stage. You just focus on the performance of that very day. Just to give you a very simple example, of course, I spoke about Kohli. I am a sports buff, so all my examples will come from sports, so pardon me for that. You're playing a Grand Slam and you are a Roger Federer. Just because you're Roger Federer does not give you entry into the second round without winning the first. So every single time he comes to a new Grand Slam, he has to win the first round, the second round, the third round, the pre-quarters, quarterfinal, semi-final, and even in a single match, if he flunks or he loses, he's out. Not because he's Roger Federer, he gets a wild card into semifinals or finals. So that is how it happens in our contest also. Irrespective of the fact who you are, you got to start from the club, area, division, district, and so on and so forth. So your performance on that very day is what we are concerned about, and not about your stature or about your past. Okay, so not the norm. So this is something when you have certain prejudices that somebody who wears a tie, somebody who comes in a jacket is a good speaker, is a professional speaker, or somebody who comes in shorts is a casual speaker. So these are, again, prejudices based on what is not normal. So get rid of that, because again, you see if somebody is dressed up for a speech and his attire adds value to his speech, I think that's the only thing you got to consider. If somebody comes in shorts and that is how what his speech needs, you need not actually, maybe you got to consider him for that, rather than just putting him down because the attire is very casual. Or in general, anybody trying to do a new thing, or the speech, let's say the contest speech has to be this way as per you, and because the ballot sheet or the rule book does not talk about how the whole combination of the winning speech should be. Just because it is not normal, just because it is not in sync with the previous winners, you need not put him down, right? Or anything which you see as a very abnormal behavior, it should not be the reason for you to put anybody down. Next up, personal likes and prejudices. Again, I said, because I love humor, somebody who's humorous, I will give him more marks. Or somebody who connects with me on a language basis, or on a region basis, or on a color basis, should not be your reason to put somebody up or down. So again, it's not about you, it's about the person and the message what he's delivering. So just get rid of your personal likes and prejudices and focus on the fairness and an unbiased vote. Okay, this also comes so often, and it works both ways. Just because somebody was there last year or previous year and for last 5 years, let's give this time a new person a chance. No, if the person is good enough, irrespective of what he's done in the past, for last 3 years he's been winning, does not mean that you will just put him down based on because he's got his chances. No, he's again started afresh, as I said, right at the club level. So he deserves an equal opportunity like a fresher, because every single time he starts, he is starting afresh with a new speech, or maybe the same speech but from a new stance. So this should not be the reason just to give a debutant a chance because the other person has got enough chances. Okay, so a quick tips, a set of tips for the judges, what you should do while making your notes, or before filling your ballots. Make notes, because normally you would have 6, 8, 10 contestants, and there are good chances you might actually skip when you're tallying, and there are good chances that you might land up on the same marks for 2 or 3 speakers, right? So what do you do then? So make notes so that you are able to refresh your memory on who the speaker was, what he spoke about, because after, and it's very normal for you not to remember one specific speaker, what did he speak about, if you don't make your notes. So please make notes, and if you like something about it, just make notes of that also. That helps you in filling the ballots in a much more effective manner. And as I said earlier, go through the ballot every single time you're made a judge, because don't just take things for granted. Okay, I know So every single time you're given a ballot, please go through it in detail, because I'm sure every time you read the same book again, you get some new insights, and that's true with the rule book, and that's true with the ballot also. Okay, judge the speech, not the speaker. Enough said about this already. Avoid any kind of distraction or multitasking, which we just spoke about, and listen every speech as first speech. I think that's the biggest challenge you might face. But keep your water bottle, keep your drinks or whatever caffeine you want to have, and refresh yourself rather than getting into the fatigue mode. If you give yourself a break, because you have that 1 minute break, of course, when you're doing the ballot marking. So take that time to take a deep breath, get refreshed, and ensure that every single speaker, irrespective of his slot, gets the attention which the first speaker got. I think if you do that, that's going to help you become a much better judge and a much better listener. Okay, let's now jump into the ballot, because the especially given the online contest, the only thing which connects you and the contestant, you the judge and the contestant, is the ballot, because that's the common connect you will see the between the contestant and the judges. And that's one thing which the contestants prepare for, and that's one thing you have to mark them for, not based on what you liked it or based on what your prejudice of a good speaker is, because this is a very objective contest. So you've got to be very objective as far as the ballot filling is concerned as well. So if you look at in the ballot, we are talking about international speech contest for now. So there is very clear demarcation of what the whole ballot is split into. So if you look at content is the key in an ISC. So 50% of your weightage comes from content, 30% for delivery, and 20% for language, as we spoke about. So you got to consider only that part. So the content is the main thing, and of course, in a different kind of contest, it will be different. So we'll see that in tall tales, it's a very different bifurcation. But when you're talking about 50% content, there also TI has given you very clear guidelines of what all that 50% is split into. So you have your speech development, you have your effectiveness, and you have your speech value. And within those headers, also you have subheaders like structure, organization, support material. Under speech development or under speech value, you have your ideas, logic, original thought. So it gives you a very clear demarcation. Then it removes the subjectivity of you marking somebody high or low. And the best thing is, if you go behind, if you just turn your ballot, maybe just let me just show you again, or we'll go after that. So delivery has 30%, which is again split into 3 headers, which is physical, voice, and manner. And under every header, there is a subheader. So if you read this, it will give you a very clear demarcation. Now let's come to the judging criteria, as I was talking about. So the content, which is 50%, also they have given you very clear guidelines on how you have to see the speech development. Just for example, speech development is the way the speaker puts ideas together so the audience can understand them. So if you read this, there would be less and less chance of you becoming subjective. Every single time before you become a judge, if you go through this sheet, which is behind your ballot, the judging criteria, it will refresh your memory, it will refresh your knowledge, and you will be able to do a much better job at judging. Okay, so this is, if you look at the ballot, there are 2 parts to the ballot. One, the top part is the judging items. And of course, from 1 to 10, you see, this is for people who are doing this for the first time. You got to write the name of the speakers in the horizontal form. And of course, you have your content, delivery, and language. And you got to mark or rate or rank your speakers based on these parameters. And once you've done that, the total scores, of course, need to be added once the speaker has completed his speech. And once all the speakers have completed, you tally your scores. And there is this bottom part of the judges' ballot, which basically asks you for your first place, second place, and third place, which typically comes from the marks you've given to individual speaker. Now, there would be times when there is a tie between 2 speakers or 3 speakers. That is when you go back to your memory, to your notes, and remember, okay, which was the speech which touched you more, which impacted you more, which you like more. So that's absolutely okay to break the tie based on your experience, but I've seen this happening at an area level, people putting two names in the first place. Judges, please remember, you cannot put a tie. You have to write unique names on first place, second place, and third place. So three different names. You have to break your tie. You have to put your signature, the signature of judges mentioned, and of course your name you got to write in bold. So this is what is expected of a judge when you submit these results. Now in an online context, how this is done will be covered in the slides which come a little later. But remember that you are supposed to only give your first, second, and third unique names. The chief judge does not expect the marks. The chief judge does not want to see the top part of your ballot, which is this. He will just expect this from you. And the top part is the most confidential part, which you're supposed to destroy immediately after the contest. Nobody cares if you gave 70 or 99 to anybody. We only care about who your first, second, and third place winners are. Okay, this is for the voting judge which you saw, and of course there would be a hidden or a secret tally or a tiebreaker judge decided by the chief judge and known only to the chief judge. His ballot is directly collected by the chief judge, and he is the only person who basically gives the rating or the ranking of all the speakers, not just 1, 2, 3, but all. So if there are 10 speakers, he will rank all the 10 speakers in as per his preference. If there are 5 speakers, he will rank 5, and his vote will be directly given to the chief judge. Now the interesting thing about this is if there is a tie after the tally counter has counted all the ballots, right? Like Arjun spoke about the point system, so I will not go there, but just a quick refresher. First place gets 3 points, second 2, and the third place 1 point. When the tally counter does his tally counting, after all the scores of the judges are counted, there is a tie. Only then and only then the tiebreaker judge's ballot will be open. If there is no tie in the contest, this ballot will not be opened at all. And this ballot is used only to break the tie. So I have an interesting puzzle at the end of the session. So I will come back to this tie breaking exercise. Yeah, so this is a similar thing for tall tales because that's the second contest we are having in our district. So if you look at the breakup here, the speech development and speech techniques, the physical and voice all put together. So the speech development, which is primarily the content, is just 30%. The delivery here is 55%. So you see the bifurcation, and that tells you that these are two different contests to be judged in a very different way. Here again, you got to read the ballot in detail. The backside of the ballot is the key. You got to see what is the ballot expecting from this contest, because you can't be judging an ISC with this ballot or with this mindset. Forget the ballot, even the mindset, because more often than not, we will feel the content is the key, but not in tall tales. Because here you want exaggeration, you want a lot of action, you want a lot of exaggeration, surprises, right? Pun, humor. So that is what will come as a part of delivery, and that's what is the king here. So you got to ensure that you are judging based on the ballot rather than what you think is good or bad, because it has to be very, very objective in nature. So quickly going on through the ballot. So read the ballot. I can't insist on it enough every single time, because if you read the ballot, you will be clear what your job is. So once you're done with that, submit results with your full name and signature to the chief judge. Share first, second, and third unique winners only, and dispose of your ballots completely after the contest. So just ensure. I've known of cases, it's funny, but the contestants who were really angry on how they did not win, they actually have picked up the ballots from the trash bin and tried to see how they got voted less. So please ensure you take your ballots with you and destroy them in a place where nobody has access to it. And with the online thing, please delete your WhatsApp messages or emails or whatever you're using to send your results. And chief judge also needs to do the same. So please ensure you destroy any evidence of these ballots. Okay, so rule book is basically the Bible of Toastmasters contest, right? And every year, Toastmasters comes with a lot of changes in these rule books based on feedback, based on the experiences. And this year also we have some changes, and I will touch upon the important ones. The first and foremost, which is, if I'm sure we have a lot of contestants here who are here not only just as judges, but as contestants. So it is a big change. I'm sure people who've been Toastmasters for more than 1 year would have seen that every single time a new speaker comes in on stage, he uses the speech of the previous speakers as a callback and uses that to their advantage in most cases to get humor out of it, to get a better connection with the audience. So Toastmasters saw this as a unbiased or an unfavorable position for the previous speaker. So it is basically an undue advantage to the speaker who are coming later. So this year, the contestants must not refer or reference another contestant or a speech presented by another contestant from the platform at the same contest in which they are competing. This is a big change. So no callback with respect to the earlier speakers or their speeches. And there could be a protest on it. This is not just saying like, this is your stage, because when you're given a specific stage and you go out of your stage, there cannot be a protest. The judges can mark you down, but in this case, there can actually be a protest which can lead to a disqualification. So the contestants and judges, and especially the chief judge, you got to make note of this. If there is a protest based on this, you have all the rights. If you feel the contestant actually used reference of another speaker or his speech, you have all the rights to disqualify that contestant. Okay, so the second one is more to do with the regional finals. I can skip that. Yes, so one more change, which of course it is more to do with the contest officials, which Arjun already touched upon, but I'll reinforce. The contest officials must not, earlier it was just a suggestion, but this year they've ensured that it has to be a must. So the contest officials must not serve in more than one role for the same contest at the area, division, or district, or the higher, or the region, quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. That means if you're a role player for a contest at, let's say, area level, you can't be doing two roles at the same time. This is just to ensure that there is fairness in the speech contest, because if there is a person who's doing multiple roles, there is a good chance he might do something which is not expected of him. So please, area directors, division directors, and the contest chairs, please ensure that there is no person doing more than one role. Okay. Secondly, there's a change wherein the contest chair, now earlier it was again a suggestion, but this time they have enforced that the contest chair must introduce each contestant by announcing the contestant's name, topic, and contestant name. So that format has to be absolutely uniform for each of the speakers. Earlier it was a suggestion, this year they've made it mandatory. Okay, and this again is a protest and disqualification which we just touched upon. Again, reinforcing that please ensure, even for a single sentence, do not refer to the other speaker from the same contest. So it might be from a different contest, you could, but if you're contesting, let's say in a division, say let's say division C contest, and from the same stage, if speaker number 2 has spoken and you go as speaker number 5 and you refer to something from his speech, you're absolutely liable, or there is a good chance that you might get disqualified for referring to that speech. Okay, so this is again to do with the semifinals of the World Champion speech, so I can skip that. Okay, let's look at protest, because this is something, especially as a chief judge and a judge, which keeps on coming. So now, who can protest? Let me see the chat box if I can see. I don't think I can see the chat box. Hold on. I surprisingly can't see the chat box. Azhar, can you help me with that? While projecting, I can't, is it?
Maybe.
Okay, that's fine.
Can you try stopping the presentation and checking once so that you can present it later?
So you're saying stop share and share again?
No, can you see the
okay,
chat
fine.
box?
I think, yeah, we can do that definitely with that. Without the projection, that's fine. So this part I'll do without the projection. So tell me in the chat box quickly, who do you think can protest? This is for all the audience. If the chat is activated, yes. Okay, we have an answer from Ranjit. If they say contestant. Okay. Okay, I've got it. Not to privately also. Okay, they can only send it to private. Got it. So I have correct answers coming from a lot of people. So we have Ranjit, Mahima, Subramaniam, Manu. So, okay, somebody says judges, contestants, and tally counters. Okay, let me stop there. Most of you have the right answers, but no, the protest can be only done by either a contestant or a judge. The tally counter has no right to raise a contest or raise a protest. Okay, so it is only the contestant and judges. And when we are talking protest here, we are only talking about protest on certain parameters. Of course, that comes to our next question. On what grounds can they protest? On what grounds can they protest? Yeah, keep typing. I'm seeing your messages. Voting judge Sunil says eligibility, originality. Okay, originality, content, timing. Okay, breaking the rules. That's very generic. Reevaluation, time, eligibility. Okay, so I'm getting most of the correct answers, but on what grounds? It's one is lack of originality. So if you're talking about a ISE or even a tall tales, it has to be 25 more, not more than 25% of the speech content can be taken from some other source. And even if you're doing that, you've got to quote the source of that, quote the origin of that content, right? So you got to do that. If you don't, then of course there is a chance that somebody will raise a protest. A contestant or a judge could raise a protest based on originality. The protest could also be based on the eligibility. Are you an eligible candidate? You're a district officer, you're still contesting. Of course, somebody can ensure that you get disqualified. So we'll talk about what is the eligibility also. And most important thing which we just spoke about is now, so earlier it was only plagiarism or lack of originality and eligibility. The new thing which has been added this year, which we just spoke about, is reference to other speakers' speech. So there could be a protest on that also. Now, to whom can they protest? So I'll quickly, in the interest of time, go ahead. So the protest can be done only to the chief judge or the contest chair. So you can't protest to anybody else, but to the chief judge and the contest chair. And when should it be done? What is the deadline of the protest? It has to be done immediately after the contest, and most importantly, before the results are out. Once the results are declared, absolutely no way you can take any protest. Okay, so that's about the protest. Now let's get into the eligibility. Who can participate, who is not allowed to participate? Let's jump there. Is my screen visible, Azhar? Wonderful. So contestants eligibility. So he has to be a member in good standing in a club in good standing. Okay, so he has to be an active member of a paid club. He should have completed his 6 projects in a CC manual or completed minimum 2 levels in his pathways, right? And he has to maintain, or he or she has to maintain eligibility at all levels. Now, one thing very important, which again came as a change in the rule book last year, was that people who are claiming their eligibility as per the competent communicator manual have to be Toastmasters on or before the rolling out of Pathways program in our region, which, as Arjun mentioned, April 2018, I think 3rd April 2018 to be precise. So if you were a member before April 2018, then and only then you can claim your CC as a eligibility for your contest. So if you've completed 6 speeches, or if you've joined Toastmasters before that, and then you're claiming CC6 as your eligibility, you're allowed to. Otherwise, you have to have Pathways as your eligibility. Now, people who, of course, are not eligible, let's look at them, or they can be disqualified if they do participate in a contest, are international, regional, district officials, ISC winners. They are not eligible to compete. Candidates campaigning for elected positions. So this is the district officers who want to be, as in these are the people who want to be candidates for the next year. They are also not allowed to be competing in contests. Judges, voting judges, tie-breaking judges beyond the club level for the contest they intend to compete are also not allowed to be competing in any other contest. So if you want to be a judge, if you've been a judge at an area division level, then you're not allowed to compete for the same contest. Contest officials for the same, for the serving contest, of course, if you're a sergeant at arms or a contest master, even at the same contest, even at the same stage for a different contest, you're not allowed to serve, or you're not allowed to compete at the same stage. Presenters at education sessions at the event where contests are held at club, area, division, or district. And so if you're doing an education session at the, let's say at a district conference, and you're also a participant at ISC, that gives you a huge undue advantage. So Toastmasters ensure that if you're doing an ed session, you're not allowed, so you'll have to skip one. So either you do the ed session or you be a contestant. You can't be doing both, because it's very clear that you cannot get any unfair stage time on with respect to the other contestants, so that which puts you in a condition of favoritism, right? So you can't do that. These are the, and if you're doing this, anybody can raise a protest and you could be disqualified. And a contest chair also can raise a protest based on the eligibility. So that's the only contest, or that's the only protest even a contest chair can raise, which is on the eligibility, because the contest chair will know about it. Now let's look at how do you go from one stage to another. We always start at the club level. So you go to the area level, how many people? So first and foremost, a club has an option of either doing a contest or just nominating the contestant for the next level. So you could be doing a nomination, but if you do a contest, then there cannot be a nomination. So if you do a contest, then the winners have to go to the next level. And how many people move? So for areas with 4 or less clubs, 2 contestants per club can go and represent the area. And how do you see how many clubs do you have in the area? The club numbers have to be taken 8 weeks prior to the area level contest. And these are, we are talking about paid clubs. So these paid clubs, basically 2 months prior to the contest, what was your base, that will decide. So just to give you an example, when I was the area director, I had 4 clubs when I got it. Okay, and out of which, 4 active clubs we had, and I added 1 more club within those 8 weeks. So ultimately we became 5, but the base has to be seen 2 months, not prior to the area contest. Because we were 5 does not mean that I will only send 1 contestant per club, because 2 months prior to the area contest we were 4, so that was the base number which was considered. So we had 5 clubs into 2, that means 10 contestants for each contest. So that of course became a massive event, but that's how the rule is. So from area to division also, because all our areas, all our divisions have 4 areas each, so we will have 2 contestants per area going to the division contest. And we have 10 divisions this time, so it will be only 1 contestant per division going to the district contest. And we wanted to give equal opportunity to all the divisions. So this time we are not having any semi-final. So you will get 1 contestant from each of the divisions representing your division at the district level. Okay, let's look at the contest officials, how many numbers you need, what all you need. Arjun has briefly touched upon this, but I can quickly go over it. So you would need a minimum of 2 timers, especially it being an online. Please ensure that both the timers, normally in a offline face-to-face meeting, we saw that 2 timers, only one submits the timer report. So one is more of a basically somebody managing the clock and somebody showing the cards. But in this case, we would suggest that both the timers do the timing and submit it to the chief judge. So in case there is a discrepancy, there is a protocol as per the rule book. So you have to take the average. In case there is a disqualification, the chief judge actually takes the average of both the timers and then comes to a conclusion. So this is uniform through the club, area, and division district. So you need 2 timers. For tally counters, you need minimum 2 at the club, 2 at the area. Actually suggested is 2 at the division and 3 at the district, but we would suggest you should go with 3 tally counters even at the division contest. Chief judge, of course, 1 is good enough for all. Tiebreaker judge is also one for each of the contests. And voting judges, now this is very critical. These are the minimum voting judges as per the rule book. So it's 5 for area and club and 7 for division and district. But as CKB sir was also mentioning, we also recommend that you have a backup role player for each of the roles, not just for any single role. So if you have a timer, have a backup timer, tally counter, have a backup tally counter, tiebreaker, have a backup tiebreaker. And with voting judges, have 1 or 2 minimum voting judges as a backup. So if you are, instead of 5, you're having 7, instead of 7, you're having 9, because there have been instances where because it's a 2-hour event, right? If a judge loses connection even for 5 minutes and misses one speech, it can change the dynamics of the whole contest, right? Because the whole idea of having multiple judges is to ensure that we get a fair result. And if that happens, I've seen 5 speeches and not seen the 6th speech, and I do not put that person on my ballot. So, and imagine that guy is losing by 1 mark and he missed because of me only. So the moment you get maybe you get offline during the contest, it is your responsibility as a judge to immediately inform the chief judge that I missed this part of the or this speaker, and the chief judge will ensure that your vote is not counted, right? And of course there is a buffer judges, and that's how it will ensure that it is a fair representation of all the judges. Okay, so this is about the annual contest calendar. The club contest now will start happening. So you got to finish, of course, before your respective area contest. So our PQD has requested, because we will be floating the list of the qualified judges and the huge everything which you need to conduct these contests smoothly. We will be giving you the complete checklist and the resources on our website itself. So please wait for a week's time, and post that you can start conducting your club contest. Ensure that you finish your club contest before your area. The area contest will are supposed to finish by 31st March, because beyond that we will have our division contest, and all of April the division contests have already been slotted. So the dates, if you're a part of any specific division, you can reach out to your division director. 1st of May is the last division contest happening, and post that, of course, the grand annual conference which we just saw from Dr. Malini Hebbar, that's going to come up on the 29th and 30th May. That's where the finals of these contests will happen. Rule book. So that's the core thing. Which any doubt, this is the Bible, as I said earlier. Of course, chief judge is also just a representation of your rule book. We also just go through the rule book. Any doubts you have, more often than not, we will be able to clarify. But if there is something which even we are not able to clarify, we go back to the rule book, check it out, and revert to you. So that's a little about the whole judging aspect. If you need anything, as I said, we will be putting it on our website. So you will have a contest folder on our website, which is D121toastmasters.org, and also the list of eligible judges and chief judges will be uploaded on our website, which you can refer to. And yes, as a judge, as a chief judge, as a participant, rule book is something which you should definitely go through. And this is something which basically is sacrosanct. No other thing is. Whatever you've heard from anybody is not sacrosanct unless and until you see it printed in the speech contest rulebook 2021. That's the latest one with the changes which we just spoke. Now we would dive into the, hold on, let me just stop my screen share because I have another presentation specifically for the online contest guidelines. So before I go there, in case you have any doubts, any questions, please, as before, please keep sending to our PQD Vanitha Rangarajan. So keep sending your questions and we will be, or to Azhar, so he'll be collating. I'm sorry for that. So I will just get into the second presentation of the day, which is about doing our contests online. Timer, how are we doing on time? If you could just tell me.
Yeah, Girish, we are 5 minutes away from the green card.
Wonderful. So that's perfect. This is what you do when you're judging. Take a sip of water in between, keeps you hydrated. Okay, let's get into the online bit of it. Luckily, I had an amazing speaker this morning who's made my life easy. So he's touched upon each single aspect of this roles and responsibility. And of course, you heard about it: moderators, contest master, timer, essay, contestants, tally counter, chief judge, voting judge, and tiebreaker. So the last four, if you see, are the responsibility of the chief judge. So he's supposed to ensure that these three people, the voting judges, the tiebreaker judges, the tiebreaker judge, rather, tally counter, and also the timer, they are briefed beforehand so that they know what is going to happen in the online contest. Let's quickly run through this. So chief judge, as Arjun spoke about in detail, he is the person who is appointed by the contest chair to ensure that the whole contest will be managed from the judging side seamlessly. He is the one who's going to decide how the whole process will flow. Now, a lot of questions about the tools we're going to use. So last year we used a tool called Toastmost, which Nirmala madam trained us all. But this year we are not able to use that tool because it does not support our tall tales contest, and it does not make any sense to have one tool for one contest and use another tool for the other. So what we're doing is we are opening this as per your preference. So if you're the chief judge at any level, you're free to decide what tool you want to use. There are multiple options available. If you want to just use a simple WhatsApp, you're free to do that. If you want to use email, which Toastmasters also recommends, you're free to do that. If you want to use any of the instant messengers, you're absolutely free to do that. So we are not recommending any specific tools, and we are also open in case you find a good tool where we can conduct both ISC and tall tales. Please recommend, and we as a top 8 will do our analysis on it, and we can give you a go ahead. Okay, but the chief judge is the ultimate person who will decide which tool you want to use. And of course, there is some recommendation as per the district sites. We'll do a quick demo of that also. Now, you're supposed to do the judges briefing at least a day in advance, or ideally 2 days in advance before the contest. Enroll additional judges, as we spoke about. So please ensure there is enough backup for each of the role players, because with online there are options. There are times you will have power failures, you will have internet failures, right? So please ensure that you are prepared for the worst. And as Arjun mentioned, be logged in into 2 devices with a different internet connection. So if you're using your phone, do not rely on the same Wi-Fi which your computer is using. In case the Wi-Fi conks off, both your devices will go off. So please ensure you have a separate internet connection. And the moment you are made the chief judge, there is a process which you are supposed to follow. So very briefly, I can touch upon it. So you are the person as a chief judge who selects the judges. So the judges which we just spoke about, 5 for area and club, 7 for division and onwards. So you are supposed to have those judges on board along with the chief judge and the buffer judges. The moment you have selected them, please ensure that you make a group. It could be a WhatsApp or a Telegram or whatever you prefer, or a Google group, to ensure that there is constant communication with all these judges, because you're supposed to share certain resources with these judges. These are the judges eligibility form, which you're supposed to get their signatures on, the ballots, soft copy. So we've also created the Excel formats of the ballots, which will help all the judges. So you need not struggle with the PDF. So we will give you an automated Excel wherein if you just put the marks of a specific speaker, it will give you the total, and it will also tell you based on your score which your first, second, third speakers are. So we've tried to bring in technology there. So we will share those soft copies with you for both the contests. And of course, the chief judge is supposed to share all this with you along with the ballot and the rule book. He'll do the training for you, and all this communication can be seamless if you have a group. Also, during the briefing, the chief judge is supposed to do a training to ensure that all the judges are empowered to use the tool which you plan to use. As I said, it could be a WhatsApp, as simple as you're doing your, let's say you're using an Excel, they can just take a screenshot or just send an email or even click a photo and send it to you on WhatsApp. But the chief judge has to be very clear on what process the judges are supposed to follow, because the judges' ballot, the judges' results are to be submitted to the tally counters, which would be 2 or 3 tally counters separately, not in a group, because if there is one mistake, the whole thing then goes, and you're not supposed to, of course, share the results in the judges group. So you have to have a different mechanism for that. So you share, as a judge, you share your results with the chief judge and the tally counters separately, not as individually with every role player. Then of course there has to be a mechanism for how do you raise protest. In the, again, in the online scheme of things, you could just instruct the judges if you want the protest directly to come to them in an email, or when you're creating a Google form there itself, you can give as an option, or you want them to call you. So all those things you got to clarify, that how the process will be with respect to submission as well as the protest filing. Okay. Also, you got to tell the judges very clearly in case one of the judges gets dropped out, in case they're not able to hear the speaker. So all these things have to be very clearly told to the judges during the judges briefing. So I think most of it anyhow Arjun did cover, so I can go a little faster on this. So these are basics of, okay, somebody is trying to play with us on the annotation. Okay, so once you're done with the contest, first and foremost thing what you do is you collect all the ballots and go into a breakout room. So just ensure that the chief judge is also given the rights, or the co-host rights, so that he can take the tally counters to the breakout room and do his analysis of the results, do the tallying of the results, and then of course see the timer results as well. And if there is a disqualification, accordingly adjust the results. And in case there is a protest by the judges or the contestants, then they use the same breakout room or a different breakout room to discuss with the judges about the protest and what they feel about it. So if you've been a judge before, you would know that the protest, when raised, the chief judge actually takes into confidence all the judges. He appraises the judges on what the protest is all about, and if need be, he takes voting, and based on the majority of the judges, whatever they vote for, the decision is taken if there is a disqualification required or not required for the contestant. Wonderful. So if you are a judge, you are always invisible, right? Nobody knows who you are, and you're supposed to be ensuring that you have a good connectivity, and it's a good practice to be logged in into 2 devices, because we spoke about how important your role is as a judge to ensure that the whole contest flows seamlessly, right? So again, there is a set format of how do you submit the results to the chief judge, but in case there is a breakdown, again, you're supposed to have a backup. Let's say if you're using Google Form or you're using WhatsApp and that is not working on that specific day, maybe you could use a text message, but just ensure that there is a process, there is a clarity on, if this doesn't work, this is the alternate we will use, or even the chat room, whatever you want to use. But the chief judge needs to be appraised of it, that this is not working, hence I am using this method to send the message to the tally counters. So just ensure that there is clarity on that. And of course, the briefing, you're supposed to attend the briefing, especially if it is an online contest. There are so many variables. So please ensure that you attend the training, you try it out, the tool which the chief judge is suggesting. And if you have any doubts about it, please ask them. You catch hold of the soft copies of the ballots, or if you want to go the traditional way, you're absolutely welcome to do that. You could print out the good old ballot, do your thing with the pen and paper, do your addition and submit the results in whichever way the chief judge expects you to do. But the way you judge is absolutely your prerogative. If you want to, you're comfortable with a good old pen and paper, you're absolutely fine to use that. And then of course submit the results in a form, in a message, in a text, whatever the chief judge has requested you to. And this is true even for the tiebreaker judge. Of course, the way you submit is a little different. So the tiebreaker judge does not send his results to the tally counters like the other voting judges. Tiebreaker judge only submits it to the judges, and he ranks all the contestants, not just 1, 2, 3. But the process more or less is the same. So he needs to ensure that he is aware about the tool and the process, but that briefing happens 1-to-1. So the tiebreaker judge is not a part of the normal, the standard judges briefing. So it has to happen 1:1. And once the results are submitted, right, when you're submitting as a judge, again, this sounds very trivial, but trust me, I've seen this happening with very senior people, that they are not breaking the tie. So as I said, writing 2 names in first position is something I've seen at the area level. So please ensure there are unique names. Please ensure that you do not give a tie, or you do not send more than 3 names. Or when doing online, again, this is one thing which we faced last time. One judge, by mistake, of course, he selected the same name for first and second position because it was a drop down menu. So please ensure you double check before submitting. There has to be 3 unique names for first, second, and third positions. And before submitting, please ensure that you've selected the right names, and submit the results. And of course, destroy any evidence. If you're doing digitally, please destroy any digital evidence that you were a judge. And even you have marks for being a judge, as in there are Hall of Fame awards, but that happens in a very secure way. You need not tell that who was the judge. You just have to name the club name. When you're claiming your Hall of Fame awards, the chief judge will only tell that this specific judge or a judge came from, let's say, Infosys Mysore Toastmasters. He need not mention who came, right? So there are marks for being a judge, but you need not mention who that person was. You just have to mention the club name. Okay, so tally counter, which again Arjun did touch upon. So you need 2 for all the contests and 3 for the district, but for division we would suggest have 3 tally counters to ensure that there is enough backup. Now, tally counter, I have a small exercise. Let's say you've seen this tally counter ballot already, right? So what you're supposed to do is you collect all the judges' results. So let's say judge 1 gives contestant number 1 first position. That means he gets 3 points. Anybody who's second gets 2 points. Anybody who's third gets 1 point. So you have, if you see in the rows, the names of the judges, in the columns, name of the contestant. So you're supposed to be ready with that. And the moment you have your judges ballot, you just put your 3-1 and total the scores and see if there is a tie. If there is a tie, you inform the chief judge that there is a tie. Please open the tiebreaker ballot. And based on that, the tie is broken. And hence you get your first, second, third place winners. And of course, you sign the document and submit it to the chief judge. This is per se your responsibility, and this whole exercise happens in a breakout room with the chief judge. Okay, let's do one small exercise, and maybe I will come back to the chat once I've shown you this. So there is this contest where there were 6 contestants and the scores are right in front of you. Contestant number 1, so this is a total of all the judges' marks. Contestant number 1 got 1 point, 2 got 13 points, contestant number 3 and 4 got 16 points. Contestant number 5 got 8 points. Contestant number 6 did not appear on any of the ballots. I hope it's clear. So I'll come back to the chat window. Okay. So anybody who wants to go for it, what is the first step you will do? Once you see this scenario, what is, as a tally counter, what is the first step you will do? Okay, Dr. Malini says tiebreaker judge. Okay, break tie for the first placer. Okay, Shashikant says that. Jyotika says break the tie. Yes, inform chief judge. Okay, yes, inform chief judge. So you can't break the tie as a tally counter because you don't have that ballot yet, right? So contestant number 3 and 4, that's very clear. So there is a tie between contestant number 3 and 4. So your job as a tally counter is tell the chief judge that there is a tie. Okay. So what does the chief judge do? He opens up the tiebreaker ballot. And okay, so we already have the tiebreaker ballot here. So who's going to come with the first, second, and third results? Please ping me. Let's see who does the fastest. So for this contest, tell me who are the first, second, and third place winners. I'm waiting. So we opened up the tiebreaker ballots, and I'm sure you all can see, right? Not clear your presentation. Okay, let me go back on the full screen mode. Sorry for that. Maybe I'll let me make it a little bigger. I hope it's visible now. Azhar, let me know if it's visible. Okay.
Yes, it is.
It is visible now. Fine. So our DLM is the fastest to come up with a sequence. So we have Narasimha Raju, who's given us the right answer. DTM Shashikant says first place. I didn't understand. If you could just elaborate. Okay, I'll tell you why we are doing this exercise. So yes, most of Shaji's got it right as well. Okay, Shashikant got it right as well. So Divya says it depends on the, okay, depends on the tie broken. I didn't understand. First place contestant 3, second place contestant 4, and third place goes to contestant 2. Now I'll tell you why we're doing this small exercise. Again, looks very trivial, but there was an incident some time back wherein when the tiebreaker ballot was open, and this I've seen this happening more than once, and especially if you're a new chief judge or new judges, you will tend to do such small mistakes which can actually impact a huge thing. So what they did was, because there was a tie, they opened the tiebreaker ballot and they took first, second, and third from the tiebreaker itself. They forgot that the tiebreaker sheet is only and only to break the tie, not for taking entire results. And I know this sounds again very, very simple, but trust me, it has happened in a formal contest. So I'm just reinforcing that fact to ensure that we do not miss that point. Tiebreaker ballot is opened only and only to break the tie, in this case between contestant number 3 and 4. The fact that the first place was given to contestant number 2 by the tiebreaker judge does not mean that the contestant number 2 comes first. Okay, again, I'm reinforcing because it is important. I hope I'm making my point clear. The tiebreaker ballot is opened only and only to break the tie between contestant number 3 and 4, not to consider any other results given by the tiebreaker judge. So in this case, contestant number 3 comes first. So contestant number 4 by default comes second. So sometimes it happens is, because there was a tie between third and fourth, you take contestant number 3 as first, and then second and third remain the same, which in this case was contestant number 2 and 5. So do not complicate that. Keep it very simple. Tiebreaker judge's ballot is only to break the tie and not to change the whole sequence of results. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do a quick demo of what we as district are suggesting. So now, as we said, there are multiple options. You could use WhatsApp, you could use email, you could use Telegram, you could use there are multiple tools which have been created by individuals, right? So you're free to decide which tool you want to use. It is the prerogative of the chief judge, whatever he is comfortable with. I'll just show you a quick demo. Firstly, the ballot, how it looks like. I think I'll have to stop share and share my ballot. Okay, so I'm sharing a soft copy of the ISC ballot. So the moment you open this, first and foremost is here in, like you, is my Excel sheet visible, Azhar?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. So in most of the cases, you will see, of course, here it is asking me that your recent changes were saved. Do you want to continue working on it? Okay, in most of the cases, there is an edit button here, because when you open it, by default, the Excel will not allow you to edit. So you got to do yes, so that you are able to edit that sheet. That is the first thing you're supposed to do. Yeah. Now you have the contestant number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, you got to fill it. So the way we've created is, the moment you write the name of the contestant, by default, it will go in the horizontal way just to help you with the complete spacing. You have your speech development, effectiveness, speech value as a part of your content. So this is an ISC ballot exactly as given by the Toastmasters International. The good thing is, the moment you fill your scores here, the total will be done by default. Okay, and the moment you've done scoring for all, I'm just giving you an example. If you see, the first, second, third place winner will also be chosen by default based on the formula which we put here. Okay, this of course was created by another district, so we borrowed from them, but this is a wonderful tool. This also gives you the judging criteria right here in case you want to refer it to. Okay, so it makes your job much easier as a judge to just ensure that you fill in your marks and you get your results. Now you can take a screenshot of it, you can just copy paste, you can click a photo. Based on how the chief judge wants you to share this, it can be done. Now, one more thing I wanted to show you is, when you're doing this on Google Sheets, so as a district, we are recommending you that you use Google Sheets, because it gives you a very secure way of submitting the results. So whichever way you're doing your filling your ballots, you submit it in a way that you're able to submit the results at one go to all the role players, because you're supposed to submit it to the tally counters and chief judge. So what we are suggesting is that you do it over Google Forms. Okay, so I'll just give you an example of how it can be done. So this is a link, for example. Again, my demo contest is visible, as a.
Yes.
Yes, Girish.
Okay,
Yes,
super.
yes.
So this is how you will get it as a judge, and we have ensured that you require the email ID, and as a judge, as a chief judge, you will know who are the authorized judges to submit a ballot here. For example, here, let's say I just select my email address. My name is, of course, populated automatically. And beforehand, as a chief judge, I've created this list based on the contestant's name. So I have 6 contestants in this contest. Anybody who wants to tell us what is so unique about these 6 names? Okay, that was just a
All are from
active.
our Swasik.
Wonderful. So yeah, that was just a show off of our SAW speakers. So we had Mark Hunter, Press, DTM Zameen, TK Ramesh, Jayan, and Stefano. So you can select your first position, second position, and let's say third position. And if there is a protest, you can actually capture it right here itself. If I feel, okay, there was a speech which did something which violated one of the rules of Toastmasters speech rule book, you can actually put in your protest here itself. And an added feature, if you want to add as an option as a chief judge, is you can actually add one more thing as a passcode. If you want to protect it, the passcode you've only shared with the judge. It could be a unique passcode with a specific judge, or you can have a passcode which you've shared with all the judges, just to ensure that the tool does not get misused. And you submit it here. Okay, and people who use Google Forms will know that there is also something called as a response sheet. I can show you if you need that help. Okay, so if you go to the response sheet, I'm sorry.
You have entered into annotation.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Okay, so if you go to the response sheet, here you see the results which I submitted, and this response sheet will be given access of this sheet will be given to the tally counters and the chief judge only. So as a tally counter, you can see, okay, the judge Girish Nagpal has given first, second, and third position, and you have your tally counter sheet. Based on this, you will give 3 points to Salim, you will give 2 points to Mark Hunter, and you'll give 1 point to Ramesh. Based on this, you can create your tally counter sheet, and the results can be prepared way faster. So this is one of the options which is secure and fast. But if you're comfortable with email, WhatsApp, as I said earlier, feel free to do that. Okay, wonderful. So that was a quick demo of what you could do as a chief judge. And I think we are almost there at the closure of the session. I would be happy to take any questions now. Arjun, are you still there?
Yes, Girish, I'm here.
Wonderful. And of course, we have our very own PQD as well. So in case there are any questions, we will be happy to address these questions now.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Girish. It has been a comprehensive view on judging. The chief judge and his team has worked overtime to bring it to us. And we have 227 wannabe judges here already. So let's get on to the plethora of questions coming in. I have to say that these questions were also sent as you were talking, because some of them are repetition of points that came later on. So I'm also collating it so that you get it all together. The first question came from CK Dalal. Is the onus not on a judge to say that he's not eligible to be a judge if his colleague, friend, or foe is a contestant?
Yes, it is. In fact, if you read the code of ethics, it very clearly says that I do not have any clash of interest, and there is absolutely nobody, none of the contestants are, as in there would not be any situation of a bias. So yes, the onus is absolutely on the judge. But having said that, I'm sure you will agree, Balal sir, that like you are a senior Toastmaster, so you would know most of them, right? So lot of contestants you would know directly. The only rule as per the rule book is he should not be a member of your home club. He should not be a member of the same club of which you are a part of. Technically that stops you from being a judge in that contest. But yes, otherwise the onus is absolutely on the judge.
The next question is, nowhere in the, it is from Narayanan M, distinguished Toastmaster from Kerala. Nowhere in the contest rule book is it mentioned that the judge shall attend JTP to be an eligible judge. Is there a separate criteria for our district?
Thank you for asking that question, Narayan DTM. Yes, you're absolutely right. There is no concept of a qualified judge as per Toastmasters International or the rule book. But as a district, we take that onus that we want to ensure that people who are judging these contests are equipped fairly and trained. In fact, that was the reason, instead of just doing a one-day JTP, we've split it into 4 sessions, and we were able to get world's best speakers to train our judges, or wannabe judges, as Minnie said. So yes, as per Toastmasters International, there is no protocol, but district has the freedom, and we've been doing it even as a part of District 92. Every year we used to publish a list of qualified judges, right? So at the club level, you can still go ahead with the judges who, as in, again, it's a recommendation, but we would definitely recommend that you only choose judges who've been qualified as per our district. And definitely for the area and division contest, because that's again a district thing, we want to ensure that each of the judges is a qualified judge as per our district.
RPRM Neil Gonzalez asks whether a club can conduct a physical contest probably in the month of January and then let the winner proceed for a virtual area contest.
Okay, so I would want PQD to intervene here, because, or maybe even DD, because there was, of course, we are suggested not to, as in the interest of safety, but I don't think there is a protocol which stops us from doing that. You want to add to this, Vanita?
Sure. Would you like Nirmala ma'am to answer?
Yeah, we were told all the area contest and division contest, district contest has to be on online. It has to be on online. That is the we got it, but maybe we can just ask them once again. That is institution
No,
we
so
got
that
it.
part of it is confirmed, Nirmala ma'am. The only the directive we have from TI is that everything that we do as the district, starting from area and upward, needs to be having online attendance as well. Means any club is under the sole discretion of the club form to run your contest in person. We don't have any this thing,
Yeah.
because you're also allowed to run your club meetings in person as long as you take your precautions. We have only directive from TI, area and upward, that online contests,
Correct.
all contests should be online, and all attendance for any event, any area event, division event or district event should also have, which means you can still have hybrid. You can still have an area meeting in person, but as long as you have going for the members who can't attend. That's the recommendation to the district.
Thank you, PQD and DD. So I hope, Neil, you got clarity on that. So as a club, maybe they could do a hybrid or even a physical contest, but as long as area or the formal district contests are to happen, it will all be online for this year.
So the next question is from Krishnakant Nayak. And the thing is, it's a composite question and it's been collated by other people asking the same thing. The thing is, they're asking about judging anonymity. And you have already answered it, part of it already, but I'll just read the first half of it. We asked the chief judge to take the judges to a breakout room for this judges, and participants will be joining early, meaning the participants could see the judges too. So is it better for the chief judge to have the judges briefing before people join in the main meeting? You had mentioned to the day before, but then it has been compounded with people asking how they are going to name, as well as when the judges move in and out, will the contester be aware of this too, and the positioning of the anonymous judges? So all that is up to you.
Okay, so as you rightly mentioned, Minnie, the briefing happens a day or 2 days prior. So that is sorted. Now the breakout room for judges will only happen in case there is a protest. Otherwise, they are not required. Even in a physical setting, if you see if there is a protest, there is no go, but you have to call the judges out. So if you are sitting in a room of 50 and you call 5 people out, it is very obvious. But in fact, even in an online setting, it is not so obvious, because 5 people missing out of 50, 60, suddenly you will not realize because you're not seeing everybody on the same screen. But yes, there has to be a breakout room movement in case there is a protest. If there's no protest, which happens in most of the cases, like protests are typically very, very rare. So if protest happens, then definitely that breakout room movement will happen. Otherwise, it won't.
Okay. The next question is from Shobha. She's asking whether all the speeches that are winning should be motivational. Is that an unwritten rule?
No, there is absolutely no unwritten rule. As I also mentioned during one of the biases or barriers to objectivity, there is no such rule in the rule book which says it has to be a motivational speech for an ISC. In fact, if you see more often than not, you will see a lot of entertainment and humor even in ISC. So there is no general or specific purpose mentioned as per Toastmasters International. But yeah, there is a set rule if you are spending 5 to 7 minutes, because speech value definitely has marks, right? So the judges, when they listen to you, they definitely want to see how much value you've added to the listeners. But as such, there is absolutely no marks given to a motivational message or so. Vanita and Arjun, please feel free to jump in and add in case you want to add to any of the answers.
I wanted to talk about the value which you covered, Girish. So no
Yes,
problem.
please. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Shobha, for asking that.
Next question is from Manu Nikita Mensis. What is the protocol to collect judges' contestant eligibility forms and judges' ballots for the online contest? Do they scan or take a picture and send it? And it is followed up with, for the results, can the judges just send the top 3 winners' names to the chief judge on WhatsApp, or should they scan the ballot or take a picture and send it?
Wonderful. I think we did cover this in the session. So it is absolutely up to the chief judge how he wants the judges to submit the results. So if I am somebody who is very comfortable with a WhatsApp, I will just tell all the chief judges to WhatsApp me and the tally counters individually the results on WhatsApp, and then maybe I can collate it in an Excel or something. if I'm comfortable with an email because I want a specific format in an Excel or as a picture, like she said. So it is up to the chief judge to decide, but we as district are recommending the Google Sheet, which is a very faster way. The Google Forms is much faster way. It can reach all the required people in a safe and a faster way, and I think that's what we recommend. But as a chief judge, as I said, as a chief judge, you will have your prerogative. Whatever you're comfortable with, you can do.
So the next point is from CK Bilal sir, and he's asked, would you advise having a different set of judges for tall fields because judging is a bit different? And on the same note, Toastmaster Sudesh has asked, can we use props for tall fields?
Okay, so I'll answer the easier one first. Definitely, you can use props for any kind of speech, right? So we've seen people using props for table topics these days. So definitely, it's a prepared speech. You can use any kind of props you use. Coming back to you, Balal sir, if the chief judge feels okay, there is a need, because see what we have done throughout these sessions is, out of 4 SAW workshops, we tried to touch upon ISC as well as tall tales in all our trainings. Even today we did the same. So we've ensured that all the judges are competent enough to judge both the speeches. But yes, if as a chief judge you feel I have the resources to have 2 different, because it's going to multiply your work, right? So there is no rule. In fact, even in division meets, you would have seen there are different set of judges for different speeches. We've seen that, not because the chief judge wanted to. In physical meetings, there were challenges, like somebody wanted to go in the first half, and division meets are typically long affairs. So there is no rule which stops you from doing that. But yes, definitely it's going to increase the chief judge's work. Yes, sir, you want to add something?
Thank you. Yeah. I want to say something which I thought was not touched upon, but is rather important regarding protest. You see, when there is a protest by a contestant, it has to be pointed out that the onus is on the person who has lodged the protest, not on the one against whom the protest is lodged. For example, if A protests against B's speech, the onus is on A to point out what part he protests about and provide justification for that protest. It is not for B to defend himself. Now, that's something very, very important. I've been party to a protest at the district level in Sri Lanka. And that's why I saw how Nina John handled it. And of course, Arunachalam Balraj was there, Balraj Arunachalam was there. And it's been very, very instructive for me. And I think this is something which must be pointed out. The onus is on the one who makes a protest, not on the one who has to defend himself, against whom the protest is.
I think a very important point. Thank you for bring it up, Balal sir. So the person who makes the protest, of course, the onus is on him to prove. You can't just say, I've heard this speech before. So you have to prove, where have you heard this speech? If there is a recording or a YouTube video, you got to prove it to the judges. If I'm the one protesting, I will have to give evidence of, if I'm claiming, let's say this is not original, I've heard it before, I am the one who will have to prove it. Thank you for bringing that, sir. I think that adds value. Yeah.
Okay, then now I'm collating a few questions. One is on callbacks. It's all about callbacks. One is, do we as a judge, do we disqualify a contestant in our ballot, or do we tell the chief judge about it? The next question is, can an audience member recognize plagiarism and come forth with it? And the third question is, what if it is a common event that everybody is commenting about, like a bomb scare or some event that has happened recently, which is happening? So that means every person will be, at least 2 or 3 people will be using it. So 3 questions.
Great questions, 3 in 1. First and foremost, I'll hit the loose ball first. Audience cannot raise a protest. So even if you know you've heard this speech, you as an audience have no right to raise a protest. So that's one. It's only the contestant or the judges who will have to file a formal protest. Second, if there is a common thing which everybody is talking about, then of course, even if there is a protest, judges can definitely look into it and see that it was not picked from a specific speech, because the protest on reference of another speech is only with respect to a specific speech at the same level or that speaker before the earlier speaker who we are referring to. It is only about that. So if somebody talks about very generic, it need not be considered as a disqualification. And also, if you as a judge are very confident that it is a disqualification, still there is absolutely no right of yours to just decide that this is a disqualification and not mark your ballot. You will still have to mark your ballot and raise a protest, because protest is discussed mutually within all the judges and the chief judge, and then taken a call on. So as a judge, first and foremost, you have to fill the ballot and raise a protest. Don't just consider that I am raising a protest and this is a disqualification. So you will definitely have to give your ballot first and then wait for the chief judge to concur on what if there is a disqualification or not. I hope I covered all three. Yeah, Arjun, please. If you could.
I just wanted to add a small thing. In the ballot itself, you can mark the contestant down on the basis of originality of that particular judging criteria. So that is not a problem. You can score the particular contestant down, but ultimately, like Girish mentioned, you will have to score the contestant or mark your scores for every single contestant and rank them accordingly. That's one point. Second point about the reference part of it. What is really important over here is to understand where the reference is coming from and understand the rule there. You cannot really reference any contestant speech from that particular contest platform. That's one understanding that you need to have. And if you have that particular understanding, I think it's okay. And if you can prove it, if someone has done so, if you can prove it, and if the same part is the reference part is not in the script of the contestant that has actually referenced, then it is absolutely not valid. If it is proven that it is actually referenced during the contest, then the contestant can be disqualified on that criteria. Girish, this is the same point which we discussed about yesterday.
Yes. Thank you, Arjun, for adding that. Okay. There were a lot of private messages. I'm so sorry I couldn't see all of them. Jyotika is saying she wants to see the tiebreaker sheet again. Jyotika, if you could come and unmute and ask what exactly is it that you want a clarification on. Are they allowed to unmute now, Azhar?
Yeah. Yes, Girish.
Yes, Jyotika.
My question was, I have a little confusion. I don't know if I'm the only one. You showed us two tie-breaking contestants, right? 16, 16, and one with 13. Now, when you broke the tie, 116 got 3 points as a result of which that contestant got 16 points, right? Am I right?
I am losing your voice again.
Yes,
okay, so
216,
216
and 113. Correct.
Hello? You can hear me?
Yeah, 216 and 113 you said, right?
216
right,
and
216 and 113, correct.
That's right.
Yeah. So when we broke the tie, the 13 went up to 16, correct?
No, 13 will be 13.
No. Okay.
16
Thank you.
will
I'm
be
a little confused. I'm confused.
Got it. Okay, thank you for bringing that, Jyotika. I think it will help everybody. Now, so when you're breaking the tie, you don't add any marks to any scores. Okay, so it's not that you bring in the tiebreaker as a 7th judge or 8th judge. No, you're opening the tiebreaker only to break the tie between two 16s. You will not add to the other speakers. So I think thank you for bringing that. A lot of people, I've seen this also. So you're opening it only to see which
there was
is
a confusion.
higher.
I got a little confused there. That's why.
I hope it's clear now. So you're only breaking the tie between two 16s. You will not consider any other thing. So if you saw third contestant was higher on that tie breaking sheet. So 116, which is contestant number 3, comes first. By default, the other 16 comes second and 13 remains third. So that is how it's going to be. You don't add any scores based on the tiebreaker ballot to the other contestants. It's only for breaking that tie, not for anything else.
Okay,
wonderful.
Go on to
I
the
think we
next
still
question.
have Vanita, what you want to take the questions, or should we take everything together and mail it to them?
I think we should start consolidating and move everything and then send out like an FAQ document. Because Sesha has come in and shown timer card twice, and people are waiting for lunch.
I think there are 16 more questions here.
Wow. I think, yeah, there are questions from Arjun's side, and this also we could consolidate and share with all the participants.
Okay. Thank you so much for this detailed, what do you say? How do I even get by this? What was this? It was like a brainstorming session that was like you guys had done and we were reaping it. So this was really, really good and comprehensive, and you had looked at it like a 3D image from every angle, evaluated it and given it to us. And all the questions as I'm reading it, in the first half, if it wasn't answered, it's answered in the latter half. And people like C.K. Bilal sir and all of them, when they are hearing what you guys have done and then pitching in and making it a final perfect product, that is perfect. So thanks a lot, distinguished Toastmaster Girish.